Yeah. So you can see this on your screen now. Um, so just to know, so the question here is describe your mood today. What is it like? Is it like sunshine, cloudy, thunder, rainy, rainbow, any other? If it is any other, maybe you can use the chat box and let us know what are you feeling right now. So let's take a minute or two to do this, just to know where we are at. Okay. Um, so the majority we have is sunshine and rainbow. And so we have 30% each. So most of us are feeling sunshine and rainbow today. And then we have cloudy and rainy. Yeah. So yeah, thank you everyone for that. I think it was great to know. Um, so moving ahead. Okay. So I know that many of you are not attending us for the first time, but then if there is anyone who is here for the first time attending masterclass, this masterclass is organized by Trainer Tribe, like I mentioned, and Quest Alliance is a non-profit organization that works towards school to work transition. And we foster 21st century skills among young people by transforming learning ecosystems across the school to work continuum. And we do so by using educational technology, capacity building, partner collaborations, and advocacy to create real impact that changes lives. And just a quick sneak peek of the partnerships that we have as of 2020. So we have about 6 partnerships with Directorate of Employment and Training for Youth Program, and 9 partnerships with state education departments under secondary schools program, and 2 partnership with state SSA for Anand Shala, and 1 partnership with Ministry of Skills Development and Entrepreneurship. And through this partnership, we have impacted about 1,641 government schools, reached about 4 lakh plus students, and worked with around 40 plus training partners, with about 400 plus training institutes, and signed about 600 state government with MOU signed, and reached about 1,30,000 young people in about 12 states. And just a moment to thank all our donors and partners for actually spreading the word and getting you folk around here. So yeah, and thanks to them for their continuous support. So yeah, moving ahead with today's, without any further delay, let's delve right into today's masterclass, that is insights and learnings, an educator to a corporate professional, which is a conversation with Rolly Singh. So yeah, Rolly, welcome to you, and thank you for spending your Friday evening with us. So yeah, we can kickstart this conversation with your little bit of your introduction. So yeah, over to you.
Right. So, good evening, everyone, and thanks, Lyman, for having me over. Absolutely looking forward to this conversation. Who am I? So, I'm from Lucknow, and I was born and brought up there. And did my schooling and initial pieces of my career was spent there. So, in the beginning, I was also like you guys into education. I was teaching class 11, 12 students English and economics. Post which, around 16 years ago, I moved to Bangalore. So now I consider myself a Bangalorean. And last 16 years, my career has been in HR, human resources. I have worked in various organizations, largely services organizations, catering to different sectors like engineering services, consulting, analytics, and insurance. Being HR partner, I have largely worked across employee life cycle and have done a lot of work across setting up organizations, helping them ramp up, ramp down, and driving a lot of people transformation agenda. um, so it's not just all work and no play. So I try to balance, and I'm a lot so through different hobbies and activities. So I'm a lot into fitness. A regular at CrossFit, like to do yoga and Pilates to center myself, and then spending time with friends and family, and trying to do different hobbies. So that's in a nutshell who I am.
Sure. Yeah, thank you, Rolly. That was a great start to this conversation, and we'll definitely delve right more into your personal career journey and so on. And to the group here, I would like to say that in case you would like to pose any questions in between, please feel free to do so. But unless you are speaking, I would request you all to please keep yourself on mute. Otherwise, you can also always use the chat box to leave all your questions, comments. We'll pick them up definitely at some point. Yeah. So this leads me to the second question that I was sitting with. Um, so, Rolly, we know that, and you have also just mentioned in your introduction that you have been in education space, right? So you were an educator, and you have transitioned to the corporate space, which is a complete different industry. So my question is, how do you encapsulate your entire journey of being an educator to a corporate professionals? I'm sure you have so many learnings and experiences along the way. So yeah, over to you.
Absolutely. I think being an educator, the life is a lot more simpler. It's like you're dealing with young people, children, and the focus and intentions are very pure. You're just, the approach is also fairly straightforward. Corporate sector, it's a different ball game. You don't, I mean, and being an educator, respect also it's very natural for the kind of work, selflessness with which the educators do their profession. A lot of respect, responsibility, accountability come right from the beginning. Now, in a corporate sector, it's largely different, and it's more about, of course, hard work is I think consistent in both the industries in terms of that subject matter expertise is also very essential. Without it, it's not important. You just can't survive. Also, in a corporate sector, in terms of once you develop the subject matter expertise, it's also next level would happen in terms of how do you develop your leadership skills. How are you with people, and how can you kind of manage your relationships even if you're not in a leadership role. In a corporate world, we expect, and since I am an HR, all through my career, I'll more talk, from an HR. It's HR's responsibility to ensure that everybody across the organization is also growing. So, it's always about displaying the skills of your next role, a role before. If you want a promotion, you need to kind of be up there and demonstrating and doing more things already. And it's not that when I get that, then I'll do. So, you have to be very proactive and take charge and kind of do things. Also, in terms of the landscape, I think what's important is in the corporate world, every organization has its own culture. So how one has to really adapt to that culture, fit in, and yet have your unique blend and personality that after some time always does shine. So how do you settle in there? In some organizations, the direct reporting line, so you report to one person, it's a lot more easier. In global organizations, you are dealing with, there are matrix structures, cultures where you'll have a dotted line reporting. You deal with global, your colleagues from all over the world, and you have to be a little savvy to adjust to different cultures and global cultures, different parts of the world, how people respond. Indians behave and respond in a particular way, but the reason why you see Indians all over the world and doing so many great big things is because our adaptability is also quite high. So that's been my key in terms of how do you learn and then unlearn every time you progress, you change your organization, and you have to settle in and adapt to the new place. The while in core the work would remain the same, your subject matter knowledge always helps you, but that adaptation to the new environment and how what value you are adding to your end clients, that's I think extremely essential. And if you're honest to yourself when you do things, your work with what do I say, with precision, that helps. That really helps people. Organizations really value and respect that, and and that's where the growth happens. So I mean, in my career, that's how I have learned and grown over the years by adapting these. Learning, unlearning, and making myself relevant to the new skills which are coming in the market. How well I have adapted. That's given me good results. So yeah, so it's always there. And as you move up, there's also as you deal more with people, um, uh, the what do I say, elements of politics, dynamics of personalities come in. So you need to learn to do that. I mean, you can't say that I'm a technical person or I'm a particular skilled person and I don't really care. Interpersonal skills are really important. And when I talk about today's group, largely the educators, you guys are great at it. So I think maybe that's something I adapted from there of being good with people and building relationships, and I think that takes us to various places.
Sure, sure. I think that was very great and insightful at the same time to hear about your experience, Rolly. And also, I really like how you said that we do not learn once we are up there, right? We are already preparing for that role that you wish to be in. So that's something I really like about that. And also how we need to learn, unlearn every time as we move along. So yeah, this interestingly leads me to my second question, which is, it would be nice to know about your career shift, which is going back a little bit to the few years back that when you made a transition from being in education to a corporate space. And um, yeah, like what was your turning point? And I'm sure you had many aspects to it, and you had your own struggles and difficulties, right? So how did you go about it? Yeah.
So, it wasn't planned actually. It wasn't that I was unhappy with the education sector, and that's the reason I wanted to move into something. I really love that transformation piece, when you work with kids and children, and you see the change, you see them learn and grow. And I think to me, as an educator, that was really, really heartwarming. And in terms of, and I had really I was quite focused on that. So I had done early years my master's in economics, and I have done my B.Ed also. And so I was all set, and had I continued a few years, maybe I would have done my PhD and I would have started teaching in university also. I would have progressed that ways. That had, while that was not a proven, that was not really my natural first choice, but I had situations, circumstances. My father passed away unfortunately when I was in my 12th, and then things just happened where I wanted to take responsibility, accountability, and this was available for me, and I took it up and I took it seriously. But after a point, I developed this medical condition, something which you call as teacher's throat or a musician's throat, where your vocal cords get swollen, and it affects your voice. So I was prescribed by my doctors to discontinue the profession because otherwise it would affect my voice and I would just lose it. You know, there would be days where I couldn't speak, my voice wouldn't come out. It would affect me that much. And everybody's, I think, capacity is different. And managing 40 kids in a class, you know, and managing grown-up kids was a little, I guess, took a toll. So then I had to shift, and at that point, you know, one thing was core to me, that I really enjoyed working with children and I enjoyed working with people. So I didn't want to change that, and so I did a post graduation in HR, human resources, because I felt that that was the next choice I had to kind of, which was closest to what I was already doing and I already enjoyed, right? So then that's when I chose a career in HR. And since Lucknow didn't have too much of options, and I had an option of two moving to Delhi or Bangalore. And 20 years ago, also Bangalore was, of course, a much better option for parents than Delhi. So my family chose Bangalore, and that's when I came to Bangalore 2004 and started my career in HR. And it was again, as I said, I didn't have aspirations. That I was very practical. I didn't have expectations. You know, I was starting my career at what, you know, for 27 and stuff. It wasn't that I was really very young, and comparatively, and I had already done a lot of years of into education, but I started from rock bottom. You know, I went in like a fresher. I got my first job, you know, and at that point, you know, nobody in my family was in the corporate sector. You know, it was like a normal small town family. Everybody was in the government sector. Somebody was a scientist, somebody, most of them were engineers, my dad and uncles. And so they didn't have the thing of how the private sector, as they used to call it then, in the corporate world was. But I started and I got a job in Bangalore, and then I grew from there. So my first job, I realized, was, you know, it was consulting client facing role. And after that, I realized that it was not core HR. And I switched after 2.5 years into another company, which was, what would I say? I was into corporate HR. So, you know, I learned and on the way, but the only thing was that it was something that I had to choose, and I chose a career in the corporate world. And I just decided to work hard through the way, you know, and just keep myself very resilient and open to things and genuinely try to transform and do what's in my control, you know, and then kind of move on. And my grandfather would always tell me that never focus on money, you know, always focus on building your skill. And I think that's one advice which has always, and I till date I really value. And so those initial years, once I did the switch, I really didn't know. If you really honestly ask me, I wouldn't, you know, I knew I will do well, but I couldn't really draw the graph of my career. Like today, we all have the option of doing. But I think it was just that ability to, the choice of, I made the choice of doing what I enjoyed and taking a risk and giving all that I had.
Right. I think, yeah, I really like what you shared. It's about learning along the way, right? Because most of the time, life is not always figured out, but then we start something and give our best to it, and we learn along the way. And also the advice that, give your best in whatever you do, and the money will follow along, of course.
Yes, that's very important.
Yeah,
Yes.
so I think that's definitely the highlight. So I will pause for a minute here if anyone has anything in mind, any opinion, and then we can move forward.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyone can please feel free to unmute yourself and speak, or use the comment box to put your opinions, thoughts, anything that you are sitting with so far. Yeah.
So, if I may, this is Smarnika.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
a question for Roli. Of course, with the context of knowing her as a very dear friend and a colleague with whom I worked, Roli, as you described your journey so far, I'm sure you would have had multiple instances of uh, the need to invest and develop in yourself. And in the times that we all are at present, I feel that now more than ever, each one of us need to constantly keep thinking about how can we keep upskilling, developing, and investing on ourselves. For that, what would be your thoughts and some maybe insights from your own life journey? Would be
Right, I
interesting
think
to hear.
absolutely. That's a very good question, Swarnika. Upskilling is absolutely a mandate, guys, to stay relevant. And like I said before, that every time, you can't be just 100% prepared. And we all don't get the cards which, it's not in our controls to have the cards which are dealt to us by destiny, right? So you make a start, and then on the way you need to figure out what's required to make you more relevant. Or if you within a stream which you choose in the corporate sector, there are certain more skills which will make you more impactful. So to planning for those investments, those are very good investments to have, qualifications. Like for example, if somebody is good in maths and has a technical acumen, and for example you started something, and then you want to become an actuarial, and I think that's a long journey of lots of hard work, investment and hard work and time. And it's essential because the returns would be unparalleled. Similarly, in my experience, like I kept doing so, like I did my one degree, masters I did in HR, and I couldn't afford to go to, I didn't have the time and luxury to go to a proper, what I say, MBA college, university, and sit and do. So I did correspondence, I did a distance education one, it worked for me. Then I kind of posed that, that was the best I could do at that point, but then it was good because it gave me a lot of knowledge, insights, and information to start, and then I gained experience. I kept on doing like a lot of smaller certifications, which would add to my knowledge growth and also my expertise as an HR professional. And I continue to do that even today. So yeah, so it's very important, and now it's even more essential because, and we'll talk more about that in the next few slides in terms of how the world has changed, and we also need to kind of be a lot more agile, open, and prepared for it. Does that answer, Swarnika?
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for asking that. And yeah, if anyone has any more question, we can take one more and then we can move forward. Okay, I think we can move ahead. Um, so I think this question is the most important question for you, Rolly, and I think many of us on the call are also waiting eagerly to hear from you on this. So it's like building a fulfilling role for oneself in terms of both professional and personal, right? It is a lot of hard work and dedication, which we just discussed also. And also, given the existing social structures, this effort can get a lot more complex for particularly for women. And so my question is, what does it take to be a successful professional today, especially for women? And what does it take for us to balance personal and professional aspirations?
Right. So, see, I think I don't look at women any different than men. And I think when I say that from a professional standpoint, I think what's important is to believe that you're worthy and to have that fire in your belly to do more and to want more. It all starts from there, to be more aspirational, more ambitious. And then the moment you have that, I think a lot of it, you will find ways of balancing and getting things done. It's not anybody's responsibilities. As women, many times, largely, we are very sheltered, protected, family and everybody around, the ecosystems takes care of us. So we are very kind of a little isolated. But as a woman, you need to take accountability equally, and you need to decide what you want. And once you decide, you need to go out and get it. And I'm sure today the way parents are upbringing girls, it's a lot more liberating with a lot more equal right mindset. So and women can break barriers. There's so many good stories around. Every second person I know has done that in some other ways. And it's a very given ask. It helps the family, the children, and everybody to have a good future. Now, in terms of, if I talk from a corporate world, I'll just give you a perspective. So today in the corporate world, women, having more women is a very important agenda for them. We have these diversity and inclusion is a very important stream in every organization. You have certain metrics where they say certain number of women should be there in an organization. It shouldn't be more men than women. Now with women, what happens is everybody starts out well in the starting years. First 5 6 years, there is an equal number of healthy division of men and women in the workspace. But after 5 6 7 years of working, women would generally, they have personal priorities, they have biological priorities, they will get married, want to start families, they'll have other things to do. And then you have to balance. So it's fair to take a break, and then we go in that rut that, can I start back? Can I, how do I start back? But just to tell you, like, organizations are like so eager to tap into this group of women. There are these returning moms program. There are women, young women leadership development programs where they want to develop younger women leaders and want to, have more women leaders grow up. So, and so I think that's very important. That if you want to kind of take a break at some point of time and then you want to come back, I mean, I think that's a good decision. And balancing and staying at home when the baby is young is also fair. I absolutely understand. It's a personal choice. I know many women who wouldn't like that. They would want to come back to work because it gives them some me time, and then they go back to work happier to focus on the family responsibilities, and some don't. So it's a choice you make, but whatever choice you make, if you decide to come back to work, you will have organizations supporting. During maternity, also the maternity benefits have increased. And in terms of before and after, the kind of flexibility women get is also much larger. But having said that, as an HR, there's a perspective I have on that, and the experience I have is that women also should not take advantage of that. So it's always a give and take. So while organizations understand and they're willing to go one step ahead, a higher, end of the day, the work expected from a man and a woman is the same, and the benefits would also be the same. So as a woman, I think women need to be very vocal of what value they bring to the table and ask for what they deserve. I think we are not good negotiators. There's always, when we look at pay for performance, equal pay, it's women are always slightly lesser than men, and it's largely because they're a lot more softer on this angle. While I'm not saying it's 100%, but largely that's the trend which has been seen. So, if I try and summarize, I think the organizations are pretty good places for women. They are very eager to have more women. It's up to women on how they leverage the opportunity which are there. So and most organizations, you can always check the kind of organization you're going in. They'll have they're equal opportunity employers. So that means more opportunities for women because they understand how complex a woman's world is. So they will kind of give you a little more push. And women are less in number in workforce, so they want to kind of increase more women. Certain positions in the corporate world, they have a mandate role for a woman. Many organizations, and I have worked in such organization, in leadership teams, there should be at least 1 to 2 women in a group of 10 to 8 men. It's mandatory, and it makes it tough. Recruiters are given, a certain higher cut to hire women candidates. So that's what's happening at the back end. And if women are aware about it and they kind of stand up for themselves and put themselves all out, I think they will get more, better returns, and they'll have a much satisfying, what do I say, professional career. One other important point which I would want to make is that, we also talk about, how safe we are, being a woman. Sometimes, you don't feel safe. You feel that people are not talking to us properly. You have posh guidelines, sexual harassment, workplace harassment. Now, I think all that also organizations really, they are very particular. They have a zero tolerance attitude towards it. But as women, I think what's important is, and especially as young people and with you guys as educators, I think it's important to teach the women, the girl students, that how do they lay boundaries when they get into the corporate world. What is okay, how to kind of carry themselves well, be professional, and yet not give anybody that space to get into their personal space. The once you start doing that, you are kind of everybody understands boundaries and they stay away. And I think that's something which I have always practiced in my career, that laying boundaries. Office is one space, my personal space is totally different, and very few people cross those spaces, and they are always friends for me lifelong. But for other larger population, I've always drawn boundaries, and that's kind of helped me to do better at work and have my personal life driven well as well.
Sure. Yeah, so I think I'm sure many on this call are educators and facilitators, trainers in some way or the other. So I think that was very useful in a way that, it is important to teach the girl child also to lay that boundary when you are in the workspace and know when to balance your own personal and professional life, right? And I'm sure many are working mothers in this call also. So if anyone is sitting with any question on that or any opinion, please feel free to come in and throw in your opinion.
Yeah, and like I said, there are immense opportunities in professional life for women. Organizations would love to have more women in workspace. So, as I said, it's up to us how we put ourselves out there and decide what we want. And when we go out for it, definitely you will get more results and equal opportunities, if nothing more.
Right, agree to it. Yeah. Yeah, is anyone sitting with any question, any opinion so far? Please feel free to come in.
Guys, it's a dialogue, so please
Yeah.
interact and let me know whether, I mean, just a comment, what do you think about it, or whether, you agree or you have a different perspective. Maybe we can have an offline conversation. I'd love to have that, or, anything else, but just feel free.
Yeah, this is like a tea time
Yes.
conversation with Rolly, right? So,
Lion told me it's
yeah.
not formal, so, this is informal best. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm sure many ones want to know and hear from you your experience and how you have come so far, right? And how you had to start at some point due to your certain reasons. So I'm sure many would love to hear more about this. So in case anyone is sitting with anything, please feel free to come in and speak in any time. Yeah, so I think moving ahead, we can go on. Yeah, so this is about you and the educators, right? So you have, in the recent past, you have also talked to so many educators and got different insights, spoke to different organizations. And I would say, particularly this year, again, has taught us many things in different ways. And considering the whole pandemic situation, I know industries across various sectors has also changed in many ways. So in relation to these changes, what are the things that educators should keep in mind from the industry viewpoint? Maybe if you could throw in some light, that would be
So,
helpful.
right. So we used to talk about the VUCA world where, you're open to volatility, uncertainty, disruptions, but this pandemic has taken us all by surprise and it's just gone beyond VUCA. And, whatever was happening, it's been disrupted. And I think the biggest transformation has been happened, the digital transformation which has happened in the education sector is such a great example of that. It's just amazing how everybody's, you guys have done a phenomenal job, so I think first I would like to congratulate all of you for switching everything to online mode and making it so digitally it's just gone light years ahead. Now, from a corporate world, also everything's changed a lot. You know, we never kind of anticipated this situation. So today, if I talk about roles are changing, I wouldn't say that they have 100% changed, but we are in the process of, we are predicting that the roles will change. What the future of the industry would be, probably we will get to know maybe next year or the year after. We'll have a consolidated view. But one thing which is very clear, that that certain roles have will certainly become permanently work from home. So work from home was, or flexibility, largely global organizations would be giving. But now that flexibility, I think, would be largely available to a lot more audience, and a lot more companies would be giving. Also, certain number of roles, like you have a DNI metric, you will be having a work from home role metric, and it could be maybe minimum 10 to 15%. I expect it could be higher than that also. The kind of, usually we would go in for permanent roles, fixed term roles, on roles of the organization. But I think how the new world would pan is that we would have more roles which are on contract, fixed term hires. This was already happening in the Western world, but it wasn't so much in India. We wanted permanent roles. We wanted to stay long term in the organizations. But now, for all in the new world, you could be working multiple organizations, doing small stints. It helps employees because you will get more money, and you can gain more experience with multiple organizations with fixed term, and the organization don't have the liability. So basis their business needs, they can change, they can be more agile, and they will not have a huge headcount on their roles, which they may have to lay off later if the business doesn't come through or their strategy changes. I mean, in COVID, overnight organizations operating models and transformation, charters have changed, and that's the key. And we took some time, but everybody adapted very quickly. So so you need to prepare the students for that world. That whatever roles they were aspiring maybe a year ago, it would look a little different now. And how do they be open to those roles? Probably a lot more roles would come in, different roles would come in, and it's really good to it'll be wise to be open to those kind of things and opportunities, and kind of make more about it. Also, the organization culture has kind of transformed. So earlier we would have probably a vision. Now it's a culture vision we are talking about. That what kind of culture would we want, which would fit even remote working employees, everybody, because they're remote and they're not physically present in office. And also, it's leading to a lot of empowerment and delegation. You can't micromanage. So you have to let go, delegate, and empower people to take their own decisions. And without that, it really wouldn't work. So people whose styles are very, like, carrot and stick, or very traditional leadership style, they will, they're kind of, it's a little stressful times for them. It's just a perspective for you to, kind of, maybe if you keep some of these things in mind, it could help you prepare the students better, for future.
Sure, sure. So, Rolly, there was one question for the previous question that we discussed about. So, if you would like to see the chat box, it's from Padma, that says, I feel mothers tend to downplay their health and well being while taking care of their families. So, how can we motivate each other for self care?
Yeah, I think that's very important, and women do sacrifice a lot. And the way we've been brought up, our culture, society, it kinds of, puts people on pedestal, women who sacrifice their own well-being for the family. And I think that's not right. If you are not strong and healthy and mentally fit, you cannot take care of anybody else. And I think we need to support each other, having support groups. When you do, reaching out to friends, or I think even this community is such a good group, for you, all of you to kind of leverage and kind of support each other, and help people, kind of women especially take care of themselves more, and that is a priority. I think we've not done enough work in that area for sure.
Sure. Padma, I hope that helps. Hope that answer your questions. Um, moving ahead. Uh, yeah. So, Rolly, what would be that advice you would like to tell all the aspiring young people who is just looking to set their foot on the door, right? So, what would be those advices that you would like to give?
So, like I've mentioned here already, I think it's very important to be a self starter. Nobody is going to come and do anything for you. So, you need to start on your own and figure it out on your own. Nobody's going to come and solve anything for you ever in your any stage of your career. You need to take accountability, responsibility for yourself and be a self starter. You need to be curious about whys and whats and hows, and that will lead you to kind of, learn more, do more, and develop yourself more, and also to be more adaptive and agile. And I think that's the mantra which we've been talking about agility in corporates for last many years. But I think COVID has just put it so much on the forefront of, being very open to change, very quick to change and adaptive. I think that's the, in my view, I think that's the recipe for success. And like what I said before, just work hard and build your skills and competence, and money will follow. Don't chase money. Focus on building your skills and subject matter expertise, and money, fame, everything will fall in line at some point.
Right. So yeah, I think we are at the end of our conversation. So I would like to open this to the group because I'm sure many of you are sitting with lots of questions that you would like to ask Rolly. Please feel free to come in and ask any of your questions, any opinions you would like to give. Yeah. So we have planned this conversation to keep it very short between Rolly and I because we wanted to open this to the group mostly so that it is like a group conversation kind of. So yeah, anyone
Um,
can feel free to come in.
yeah, so I just wanted to kind of write that, and I'm sure Lime has those slides somewhere. But in case if you want to kind of have a conversation, or if you, I mean, I'm a coach and probably I can help you, decide and see where you want to go professionally. So feel free to reach out and connect. I do pro bono coaching, so you don't have to pay me. I mean, I just love doing that. So, I'll be happy if I can, help you in any way, support you or guide you, or with my experience, put you on to someone. So feel free to reach out. I think it's a time of, networking, and we need to really help each other.
True. Yeah, so Rolly is on LinkedIn, she's on Twitter, and she has given her email ID as well. So you can reach out to her for anything you would like to get advice on or any conversation that you would like to have with her. So you can take a snapshot of this page maybe. So yeah, you can feel free to reach out to her.
And any questions? Are they always so quiet, Lime, the group?
No, they used to be so chatty. The chat box used to, keep buzzing all the time.
Come on, guys. I'm very sweet and harmless.
So Padma is saying year-end hangover, I guess. That may be right, Padma. I won't deny.
Yeah, everybody just wants to go and celebrate Christmas and get on, finish
Exactly.
this year.
Exactly. So meanwhile, I am launching our feedback poll. And meanwhile, if you have any questions, please feel free to come in. But meanwhile, please take this feedback poll. It is very important for us to plan the future master classes so that we can do it better. Yeah. Meanwhile, we can take your questions. And also for everyone, okay, I think we have one question from Padma Roli.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Uh,
it says,
yeah, so
yeah,
yeah, I'm reading your question,
sure.
Padma. That's a tough one. You need to take your husband's support, Padma. You know, managing in-laws is a tricky one. But I think what helps is that, before marriage or, at some point you set expectations that work is important for you you know, and kind of figure it out. It is challenging. I have a lot of friends who've been through that journey, but you just have to be firm and tell them that you enjoy doing this. It's your passion, plus it's money, coming. It's helping. It's good for everybody. So I think yes, it's important that you kind of have those conversations, and it'll be, and if your husband supports, then I think it becomes easier.
Right.
Yeah,
So there are some comments from Crescent Lawrence as well. Would you like to check that, Rolly?
yeah, I'm checking.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Crescent, you're mentioning that some female who are backward. I mean, you're saying that people are from a different social setup, so it's difficult for them to come up and share what they want. Or,
Yes,
I mean,
can you hear me?
yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Actually, we take classes. Okay, in Gujarat. We are in Gujarat, Rajkot, and some of the students who are females, they really feel backward to come forward. So how do we connect to them? How do we bring them out from their shyness?
Yeah, so I think you need to connect with them at their level, make them comfortable, and kind of, once they let their guards down, they're comfortable, then you can kind of do it, and for them, I think it's going to be more at, smaller wins. What are they really kind of struggling with? It could be not be something very transformative if we talk about like we're seeing other people doing, but there could be small wins and small victories for them, just the realization. And many of them, if they are not working and they've been brought up in their setup, they may not have aspirations, they may not even know that they want to, or so it's a different journey. And I think and just kind of helping them to respect themselves and as human being, and be treated well, and and do something for themselves in smaller ways to be independent. And if you can win their trust and then leverage that, I think that'll be helpful.
Thanks, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for asking, Crescent and Rolly, for answering it beautifully. So yeah, if we can wait for a minute or two more before we close this, we can take one or two more questions. Meanwhile, just like I mentioned in the beginning, that this masterclass is organized every Friday, and it is an initiative of Quest Alliance. Please feel free to join Trainer Tribe. We are on Facebook in case you haven't joined already. I have shared you the link that will take you to the page directly. So yeah, right now we are about 2000 plus educators in the network. Please feel free to do so. And regarding all the future master classes, all the details are always updated there. So yeah, feel free to join us. It is an online learning community which is open to anyone who is interested. Padma says, thank you for organizing this session. I found it insightful and encouraging. Thanks again. Thank you, Padma. Thank you
Thank
for joining us every Friday. Actually, I see your name and I really feel happy when I see people, familiar names in every masterclass every Friday. So yeah, thank you very much for joining us every masterclass.
thank you, guys.
Yeah. So, Rolly, before we close this, any closing comments from you?
No, I think it's been a great session, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. And yeah, I mean, look forward to maybe connecting with you guys on another topic, maybe something more serious.
Definitely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely we will catch up on that and we will plan for another session maybe in the coming months. So yeah, definitely. And thank you everyone for joining us today. I look forward to seeing you again for the upcoming master classes. For that, feel free to join the Trainer Tribe group so that you can stay updated on the future master classes. Um, yeah, I think we are good to go. So thank you, Rolly, for spending time with us. It was very nice to know you, your personal experience, your how far you have come, how you have transitioned to a different industry, and then now you have come very far, right? So I think for me also personally, it was great to know you, and yeah, thank you everyone. We will see you again. Meanwhile, have a great weekend.
Thank you, guys. It was lovely interacting with all of you. Happy weekend. Bye bye.
Yeah. So ending the session in another few seconds.